Welcome again to the channel, and today we're going to be discussing the NFL Divisional Round of the playoffs for this year. And the first game of the Divisional playoffs brings us to the Cincinnati Bengals at the Tennessee Titans. So to me, this is probably the least important game of the Divisional Round. Nonetheless, this is a very intriguing matchup. On the Bengals side of things, they finally got that playoff win drought monkey off their back last week. And I think there isn't much pressure on this team to win this game. They are, after all, led by a second-year quarterback in his first NFL playoffs in Joe Burrow, and they are the lower seed. I mean, even last week, I didn't think there was much pressure on them. I felt the pressure was more on the Raiders last week. Watching them play the Raiders, some of you, perhaps never thought at any point in the game that they were going to lose. Even when the Raiders had the chance to tie the game on the final drive, I still never thought that they had a chance to win that. But watching how spot on they played against Las Vegas and how well their offense was in sync, you would have thought that this team has been doing this for a couple of years already. I mean, there was a point in the game where they showed the Bengals offense in the huddle. And man, I mean, you could see that Burrow was in clear control of that huddle. He is the clear leader of that team, and the poise that he has on the field looks like he's on a mission. I mean, even in the post-game interview, he gave such a veteran quarterback answer, kind of like the job's not finished, speech, whatever. But I think that this game against the Titans will probably be their first real challenge. And on the Titans side of things, King Henry is back, and he's actually expected to start. I'm excited to see where he's going to look like, especially being gone since Halloween week 8. I do believe that there is high pressure on this team. They are, after all, the 1 seed. So this is going to be a home game for them. And they've already beaten some of the best teams that are in the playoffs right now, including the Rams, Chiefs, and Bills. And I do believe that the extra week of rest for the Titans will help them in the long run for this team. And that they should be thanking the Bengals, actually, for helping them secure the 1 seed after the Bengals beat the Chiefs in Week 17 in that comeback win. And one point I did want to bring up is that although they are the 1 seed, they are being extremely overlooked. I don't think in my lifetime that I've seen a 1 seed just kind of get glossed over like they have. I mean, if you look around, no one's talking about them. Everyone has pretty much crowned Kansas City or Buffalo as the best in the AFC. More on that later. However, I do believe in this game that they are going to have to get stops on the defensive side of the ball to win. I don't know how much of Henry they're going to play. He is starting. But they still have a pretty sustainable run game even without him. They've made do. They still have good options at the receiver positions. And they're being led by who I think is the coach of the year in Mike Vrabel. I mean, what he's been able to do with this team without their best player is just insane. And if I had a vote, that's who I would pick for my coach of the year. But back to my original point, I think that they will have to get stops on the defensive end of the ball to win this game. Because if Burrow and Chase have a game like they did against Kansas City in Week 17 or against Vegas last week, I don't know if I trust Ryan Tannehill to go shot for shot against Joe Burrow. So after looking on both sides of the equation, my pick to win this game is Tennessee, because I think their defense is going to be able to get stops against a still pretty young team in the Bengals. And I do think that the offense will still be able to maintain its scoring on the other side of the ball. Key point, if they win this game, it will be because of the defense. And that's my final point on that one. So for that one, I do have the Titans. And that brings us to the second game of the day, and that is going to be the 49ers at the Packers. And I want to start this game talking about how the 49ers hold this cloud over Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers specifically. More so on Aaron than Green Bay as a team. But this will be the 4th time that Rodgers has taken on the 49ers in the playoffs. And his record against them is 0-3. He has not beaten them yet. In the 2012 Divisional and the 2013 Wild Card, back in the Jim Harbaugh, Colin Kaepernick days. And then more recent, the 2020 NFC Championship. That one might be a little fresher for you guys. But I know that none of this matters anymore. It's a new season. But I do believe that Aaron Rodgers, as well as the Green Bay Packers, they have a chance to exercise some of those scarlet and gold demons that have been kind of over their heads. I think that although no one outside Rodgers remembers 12-13, the 2020 NFC Championship still kind of leaves a bad, fresh taste in the mouth for them, being that a lot of those players are still on the team, but on both sides. And I think that this will be a chance for them to redeem themselves after that disappointing end 2 years ago against the Niners. And on the Packers side of it, everything I just told you, as well as them falling short last year to the eventual Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, puts insane amount of pressure on Rodgers and the Packers. Of course, the question still remains on Aaron's future with the team, and that depends on the outcome of this game. I mean, they cannot lose this game. I'm not going to even try to speculate on Aaron's future because that is a topic in and out of itself, but I do think that if they lose this game, it will be the final game in the green and yellow for Aaron. And how fitting of a story for Aaron to have to go through this team that you have not beaten in the playoffs, and they also passed. This is the same team that passed on you in the 2005 NFL Draft to pick Alex Smith. I mean, we all remember the teams that skipped Aaron and just, as he fell down and down the draft board until he eventually fell to Green Bay. And I think it's personal for him. And, after all that I'm saying, I'm still picking the Packers to win this game. They're getting all their team back and healthy at the right time. I think they've got the Niners right where they want them, on the cold grounds of Lambeau Field where no one wants to play in January, which for a West Coast team like the Niners, I think will give them a shit ton of trouble. Although I don't 100% believe in the Packers' defense, especially their run defense, they do have the next best thing, and the main reason I'm picking them, which is they have the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the league of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. I mean, need I say any more? I really just don't know how the Niners are going to be able to stop it. On the Niners side of it, I thought that they played great against the Rams in the second half of Week 18, and they played 3 great quarters of football last week against the Cowboys. But the one bad quarter of football almost cost them the whole game and the season. I do think that in order for them to win this game, they have to play great the entire game. They can't just play great for a half and then show up this next. They can't just play one half of football and then not show up for the other. Or they can't just play 3 quarters of ball just to give it away in the fourth quarter like they almost did last week to the Cowboys. The Niners played the Packers back in Week 3, and they were behind pretty much the entire game. And even when they eventually took the lead with less than a minute remaining, they still left too much time on the clock for Aaron. I do have confidence in San Francisco's defense to definitely make it hard on the Packers to score, but I don't know how much faith I have in Jimmy G to get it done in Lambeau, especially in sub-zero temperatures. In fact, they might not even have Jimmy throw the ball too much. I believe they're going to attack the one hole in Green Bay's arsenal, and that is their lack of a run defense. And San Francisco has a pretty damn good run game. However, with all that, the only way I see them beating Green Bay is, 1, the Niners have to have a phenomenal game on the defensive side. They have to pressure Rodgers. They have to win third downs. They have to play great. Second reason is they just got to run the ball down Green Bay's throat. They got to be able to just beat them on the run because, like I've said, Green Bay's lack of a run defense is a hole. It's a hole that they can expose. And the third reason is Jimmy just has got to kind of have a perfect game. He can't have any mistakes. He can't have a fourth quarter pick like he did last week against Dallas. But even, for all those things to go right, if I was a betting man, which I am, I'm still going to pick Green Bay to win this game. The third game of the divisional round brings us to the Los Angeles Rams at the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, this one was one of the hardest games I think I've ever had to pick watching football. Has my two personal favorite quarterbacks are going head to head in what I think is going to be a heavyweight fight. I want to start on the Rams side first. I want to first shout out Matthew Stafford for getting that first playoff win monkey off his back. As a lifelong Lions fan, I've watched every snap of his career, and it was so nice to see him finally win a big game. I thought the Rams as a team had about as perfect a game that you could have to start the playoffs on both sides of the ball. Their defense made Kyler Murray look like he had never played football in his entire life. I mean, there was even a point in the game where OBJ had more passing yards than Kyler Murray did. And on the offensive side, they were able to make it work in the run game and in the passing game. I think Cam Akers coming back and having a game like he did on Monday is going to be huge for the Rams. I've already talked about some of the other teams in the divisional round having pressure on them this week, but without a doubt, this team has the most pressure. The Rams have the most pressure in this playoffs right now. On their side of the coin, I do think it is Super Bowl or bust. I mean, shit, Goff got you to a Super Bowl, and even last year got you to the divisional round. I think this is a must-win for the Rams. This is why they traded for Stafford. This is why they traded for OBJ. This is why they traded for Von Miller. Watching last week's game, I came to a realization that this was the team Sean McVay had pictured when he created it and put it all together. That was the Los Angeles Rams at their best. Probably the best I've seen them all year. It was a great game on both sides of the ball for them. And if that's the team that shows up, I don't know if anyone can stop them. Defensively, I mean, LA has Brady's kryptonite in their arsenal, and that's a strong pass rush. They have Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, Von Miller is a problem for any offensive line. But LA has to get to Brady in this game, especially because Brady's O-line is a little compromised. With Wirfs and Jensen, that's when you got to get them. Offensively, they can match you score for score. They have so many weapons. I haven't even talked about Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, and Tyler Higbee, on top of OBJ, Cam Akers, and Sony Michel. I don't even think that Matthew Stafford has to necessarily be great, but he has to be good, and he can't lose them the game. He can't make any stupid throws. The field general in Stafford will be the biggest factor on if they win or not, because you and I both know that the defense is coming for blood against Tom, and I do think that they will make it hard for him. I really do. On the Bucs side of it, I believe that win against the Eagles was a big momentum booster for them going forward. Whether or not it's for more than a week, we will come to find out, but we can all agree that the Eagles' defense and the Rams' defense are completely different animals, as well as their offense. These two teams met in Week 3, although they were different teams. For Tampa, I have really not too many worries for them, other than their offensive line. It being a little compromised with injuries, all that means is that Tom Brady's going to have to get rid of the ball quicker in the pocket, and he's still got the quickest release in all of football, and he's still doing it at age 44. But it just adds that smaller margin of error for Tom Brady. And Tampa still has a decent amount of weapons. I mean, they still got Mike Evans. Cameron Brate's a good backup. Gronk is still there. Gio Bernard. They still got a deep threat sprinter in Scotty Miller. We still don't know if we're going to see playoff Lenny, but not knowing how much of an impact he would have anyways running against the Rams' defensive front, if any. I don't think that they will be able to run the ball against the Rams. I do believe the loss of Chris Godwin might hurt them in this game and further down the line if they advance past this game. I don't think AB hurts as much. I always looked at him as kind of a luxury item for Tom Brady anyways. Like, he didn't need him, but it was definitely nice to have. But if they win this game, it's going to have to be because of Tom. I expect Mike Evans and Gronk to have big games and a lot of targets. And because of that, I am going to pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win a very close game. And I believe this game being played in Tampa Bay will be a huge advantage for them. On the defensive side for Tampa, if they can make Stafford uncomfortable, like what the Rams are probably going to do to Tom, I think that will be the key to beat the Rams. JPP, Shaq Barrett, and the whole front, Vita Vea, they need to get to Stafford, especially because he's missing Whitworth. He's down right now, I believe, too. And at the end of the day, it comes to who do you trust more in making the big plays. And for me and probably all of you, it's easily Tom Brady over Matt Stafford, even at his age right now. Like I said, I've seen every snap of Matt Stafford's career, and we just don't know if we're going to get clutch Matthew Stafford or if the pressure's gonna break him. I can honestly see this game going either way, but I'm going to stand with the defending champions and pick them to win this game. Final note on this game is if the Rams do end up winning this game, I do think retirement is on the table for Tom Brady. I think it already is. It just he hasn't really been open about it, but never say never. He's still playing great. I mean, MVP candidate for sure, and he's still one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in the game. But keep an eye on this game. This could be the last time we see Tom Brady play. I mean, I hope not. But if for some reason the Bucs cannot pull out the win, I think everything's on the table for Tom Brady at this point, and retirement is definitely an option. But with that, I'm still going to go with the Buccaneers to win that game. The final game of the divisional round brings us to the Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. And I can't think of a better way to end the football weekend than these two teams going at it. It's a rematch of last year's AFC Championship. Both teams here are interesting. They both had slumps in the middle of the season where people, including myself, I'm not going to cap, wrote them off. But now that seems ages ago. Both teams are here, right where we thought they would be at the beginning of the season. I believe whoever wins this game will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I don't care who wins the Cincinnati versus the Tennessee game. I think this is the game that's going to decide who will be representing them. Last year, I think Buffalo had a puncher's chance at taking the crown of best team in the AFC, and it was noticeable that they were still a year away from getting to the big game. But this year feels like both teams are evenly matched, and the crown is up for grabs. Both teams still have a bad taste in their mouth from last year. For Kansas City, they're on a revenge tour trying to avenge their ass whooping in the Super Bowl by Tampa Bay. And for Buffalo, they're trying to avenge their loss to the Chiefs that cost them a trip to the Super Bowl last season. I mean, we all remember Stephon Diggs staying after to watch the AFC Championship celebration last year. He wanted to use it for fuel for this season. And so far it's worked. I would say that the claim for best team in the AFC is definitely on the line in this game. But a big overlooked storyline that I have my eyes on is the claim for the best young quarterback in the league right now. Because we can all agree that Tom Brady and Rodgers are in the best quarterback discussion, but they're getting up there in age. They're pretty old now. There's a big gap between them and these two quarterbacks that are going at it in this game. I believe whoever wins this game has the claim of being the best quarterback of the future. I mean, you could mention Burrow and Herbert, but I still think they need another year or two. To me, this has the feel of an emerging rivalry between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. It has that Brady versus Manning feel almost. Like, it's going to be me or you in the Super Bowl, and we're going to have to go through each other to get there type feel, And only one quarterback will have the crown after this game. And how fitting is it that they have to go through each other for it? On the Chiefs side of it, this is probably the one team they didn't want to see. On the Bills side, I think they wanted to see Kansas City. They want to avenge what happened last year. They want to beat them and send them home like Kansas City did to them last year. These teams met in Week 5, and like Jake said on last week's episode, they went Arrowhead and beat the shit out of them. It was not pretty. I believe it was 38-20, and I know that was a different point in the season, but they beat them pretty good. And last week, the Bills exercised some demons by beating the shit out of the team that has owned them for the last 20 years in the Patriots. I mean, they had a perfect game and gave New England their worst loss under Bill Belichick. That game last week kind of felt like the end of an era and the beginning of another, sort of a passing of the torch moment for New England to Buffalo. And I think they have the chance to exercise some more demons again this week to be able to beat the team that has overshadowed them for the last 2 years in the AFC. When these teams met in Week 5, it was different times. Buffalo was rolling and Kansas City was in their slump. But now they're both in their mojo ahead of this week's matchup. For Buffalo, I believe they're going to rely on Josh Allen heavy again to get them scores. And I envision that for them to win this game, they will have to have another perfect game. For the Chiefs, their offense is still firing on all cylinders. Even last week, after they got down to Pittsburgh in the second quarter, they turned on the switch and lit up the scoreboard and took the lead back like they were never even behind. and that was still against a pretty decent Steelers defense. Patty still has all of his weapons, so you know they're going to put up points. That's what I'm expecting in this game. A good old classic AFC shootout for a trip to the title game. And it's going to come down to which team can make a stop. One factor I'm taking into heavy consideration is the fact that this game will be played at Arrowhead. Yes, the Bills did beat them earlier in the season at Arrowhead in a primetime game. But this is the playoffs. Arrowhead is one of, if not the loudest stadiums in the league. I don't factor weather right now because both teams are used to playing in the cold. But I will say that going in Arrowhead against the Chiefs in the playoffs is no easy task. It might be impossible to win there unless your name is Tom Brady. For that reason, I am going to pick the Chiefs to win this game and advance to their 4th consecutive AFC title game. I do believe it will be a close game, and it's going to be an offensive game. And I can honestly see it going either way. But it's all going to come down to who can get the stop when it matters most. Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes for who runs the AFC, and it will surely be one hell of a game. Again, I am going to pick the Chiefs for this game in a close one. And that is it for my divisional picks this weekend. Stay tuned for more content and comment below your picks for this weekend's game. Thanks again for tuning in, and please like and subscribe. And we out.